Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? I'm going to go, I'll go over to the chat and do this one first of all. Andy Head. Good morning, Andy, all the way from the wilds of Leeds. Morning, folks. Been a while. You don't realise how much crap you accumulate over 34 years in your workshop until it's time to clear it all out. Yeah. Have you found any old newspapers? I do love an old newspaper tucked down the back of a cupboard somewhere. Whenever you move into a house, you take the paddle off a bath, there's always a newspaper under there. Look back at the headlines from 1972 or something like that. Gary Muirhead has kind of beaten me to the opening of today's show. He says 23rd anniversary of 9/11. Can't believe it's that long already. Yeah, it's I can't believe it's that long. And I don't know if I've ever told the story. I was working from home on 9/11 back in 2001. I'm kind of pre-live streaming and pre-Zoom calls and stuff like that. I used to spend quite a bit of time, and it was only ever playing in the background. I had like a journalist forum, so there was people sort of sharing news and ideas and concepts and stuff like that. And it was playing in the background, and somebody posted on there from the States, oh my God, a plane has just hit the World Trade Center. And straight away, my thought was, a little twin-seater or something like that. But I thought, well, I'll see if it's on the news. And I stuck on Sky News. And I put on Sky News. Obviously, there was smoke billowing from one tower, and I turned it on literally as the second one hit. And I remember the guy on Sky saying, "This is not an accident." And that was it. That was me glued for the rest of the day. And it's been a defining moment. I think, in terms of my life, obviously COVID was a big deal. The fall of the Berlin Wall was a big deal. Live Aid was a big deal. But nothing quite like 9/11 really did change the global landscape, I think. I'm going to be talking about kind of generational change in just a moment, but I do want to say a few good mornings because I haven't done that yet. Gary Muirhead is here. Chris Ford is here. Mark Whiting is here. Jim Turner is here. Dan Cullen is here. Dan has no concreting today, so that's good to see. Yeah, generational change and the like. So not on the scale of 9/11, but let's pursue that. This is a headline and a story from Building Magazine today, and it relates once again to the subject of Grenfell. We will deliver a generational shift. Why the Grenfell Inquiry means another building safety shake-up. And Keir Starmer apparently wants his government's response to the tragedy to mark a defining moment in the safety and quality of housing in the UK. It goes on to ask whether or not we're actually ready for that. And in a large way, that idea of taking a tragedy and marking it with some sort of generational shift is precisely the reason that we have started the petition for a public inquiry into Didcot. And I am going to throw this up on the screen because we hit a bit of a landmark last night. Bear with me 1 second so I get to the right place. It looks like that. There you are. Yeah, we've topped the 500 signatures. I will hit the refresh button just to see if there's any more to be had. 522, 523. Okay, not a huge leap, but yeah, we've got more than 500. And as of as it stands at the moment, I had a phone call yesterday from a guy that I know up at BBC Radio Oxford, and BBC Radio Oxford have been made aware of the petition, and they've asked if I would go on their breakfast show on Friday. So make a change to be on somebody else's breakfast show rather than my own. That will be before the show, so don't worry about that. It won't disturb this. But yeah, an opportunity to get online and speak to the people of Oxford. I'd like to think that we can come up with maybe another 500 signatures as a result of that. I think we can start to take this whole thing seriously once we get to 1,000. 523 is not bad. It's a start, but I think we need a lot more than that. Dan Cullen says, see how Lloyds and Barrett's got together. That's interesting. Not sure what that is about. And government got behind them. I'll go and check on that. And Ken Hatter has just joined us. Good morning to you, Ken. So yes, should we crack on with the show? Because yeah, lots and lots to get through, as always. Sometimes feel like I overstuff these. Though, you ever made yourself a burrito or a kebab and you think, yeah, I'll put too much in that. Can't quite squeeze it all in. Yeah, that's kind of this show. So let me get things rolling with a bit of this. does it say about me, or what does it say about you? The fact that I'm sat here wearing a brand new hat and nobody's mentioned it. How does that come about? Yeah, new hat, gift from Mr. Gary Muirhead. I think it's come all the way from Tenerife. Doesn't it look fantastic? I think this is going to Las Vegas with me. At the same time as the hat, he also bought me a T-shirt. Get this. Yes, I've got selective hearing, and you haven't been selected today. It's not looking good for tomorrow either. Gary Muirhead has a knack of summing me up in a T-shirt. Thank you, Gary. Thank you very much indeed. Particularly enjoying the hat. We just wish. This is no complaint. There is next summer. Just wish I'd had it about a month earlier, so that I'd actually wear it out in the streets where the sun was shining. Anyway, all of that aside, it is Wednesday, the 11th of September, 9/11, as we all know. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition. In today's show, Alsa charges into the future with a brand new electric dumper. Caterpillar reimagines equipment procurement. Mark's Mighty Merlos. It's quite a long film, that, but it's a good one. And we have some heavy Hydromech loading action too. Plus, in my morning monologue, I'm going to be discussing industry apathy. Industry apathy and how the sector often fails to react to fatal accidents and a whole other bunch of stuff as well. But before we get to all that, there is the small matter of today's mystery machine to attend to. So, back after this. Okay, well, I won yesterday. I was a little surprised to do so. I thought I'd made it fairly easy yesterday, but I won yesterday. But Dan Cullen is here from the opening, so we may have a different outcome today. So here is the mystery machine that you need to identify. Not a huge amount to go on, is it? I'll leave that on the screen for just a second. Obviously, I will reveal a little bit more as we go along. But let me take that away, because the other thing we need to decide is who will be joining Volvo in the final of our Excavator World Cup. Yeah, it's second semi-final time, people. If you were here yesterday, you will already know that Volvo booked its place in tomorrow's grand final. We've been doing this for about 6 weeks now, and we're actually finding out who the world champion of excavators is tomorrow. Now, to see which brand will be joining Volvo in the final, you need to decide between these two. Yeah, Caterpillar, their presence in the semi-final, not a huge surprise to anyone, and Atlas. Their presence in the semi-final, probably a huge surprise to everyone, including Atlas themselves. But which, in your opinion, is the final of the excavators? Were I to hand you £150,000 in used and imaginary £1 notes, and you had to buy an excavator, are you buying a Cat or are you buying an Atlas? I've got a funny feeling I know how this is going to pan out, but I don't, I can't swear to it. Obviously, the manufacturer with the most votes will go forward to the final, while the manufacturer with the least will fall at the last hurdle, but they can go away empty-handed, but proud. They can hold their head up high. So what is the chat saying? No, well, I thought this was going to be unanimous. So Chris Ford, Cat. Gary Muirhead, Cat. Ken Hatcher, Cat. Gary Muirhead, Cat and Volvo in the final. Dan Cullen, Atlas. I didn't see that coming. Is that because you're a huge Atlas fan, Ken? Dan, rather? Or are you anti-Cat? Are you anti-Cat? If you are anti-Cat, maybe we should send them over to Springfield, where apparently the locals, or not the locals, but the immigrants are eating the pets. If you believe the orange man on the debate last night. What an absolute tit. Seriously. And right, let's go back to the mystery machine. That's what you've been looking at. Nobody's actually come up with a suggestion yet. So I'll show you a smidgen more. There you are. Does that help at all? Nothing as yet. So I'm going to take that away and we'll crack on with the show. And I'm going to be right back. Oh, hang on a sec. Something just happened. Dan Cullen is a fan of Atlas. There you are. Listen, each to their own, and I'm sure Atlas make a very good machine. Are they on a par with Caterpillar? We'll find out more about Caterpillar a bit later on, but we do need to start. And I'll be back in a moment with something new, brand new, actually, from Alza. We've had our first guess on the mystery machine. Dan reckons it could be a Cat D11. It is not one of those. In fact, I'll go one stage further. It is not a cat of any description. Jim Turner reckons it could be an ONK 300. It is not. It's not an ONK 300, nor is it an ONK of any shape or size. There is a little bit more, though, for you to be going on with. You can mull that over while I'm doing the next bit. Of all the machines in the construction equipment armament of the industry, you'd think site dumpers would probably be the most sensible thing to electrify. You know, they have a nasty habit of sticking in the corner, just idling, burning fuel and pumping emissions into the atmosphere. So what better machine to electrify? And who better to do it than those fine folks over in Barcelona, Alza. Yeah, very smart from Alza. I don't know if anyone picked up on that. Alza has actually been purchased recently by, I think the company's called, or the corporation is called Oshkosh. They also own JLG, the access platform people. Going back to our mystery machine, which currently looks like this, I'm going to say very quick good morning to Garvin over at Mostly Diggers on Instagram, and also Mr. Cummins 100, who's just joined us over on Instagram as well. So let me have a look. Dan Cullen reckons it could be a Lugong D6 dozer. It is not. Gary Muirhead reckons it could be a Tesmec trencher. It is not one of those either. However, Jim Turner reckons it could be a DMAG 485. It's not, but yeah. You're mighty close, Jim. You're mighty close. And Jim has already got some points on the board. May well have some more today. I'm going to take that away because I need to play you a little bit of this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
When it's not busy being the biggest construction equipment manufacturer in the world and pioneering new machines and new drive systems and what have you, Caterpillar is giving some thought to the whole process of procurement. It looks like this.
Walker has a lot of different iron, and there's a lot of Cat product. Like the majority of our equipment is Cat.
We do, on average, just under 40,000 POs per year. So it's a lot of volume and a lot of transactions that we do.
Our large customers have invested in procurement software. We offer CAD integrated procurement as a solution for them.
The way I see integrated procurement is it really looks at the order process all the way through the supply chain and looking at trying to optimize that. And that always should start with the customer.
A couple of clicks of a mouse key, no phone time, and allows us to get our parts ordered for our assets right from SIS right through to the dealership and have them delivered.
With CAD integrated procurement, we got punch out, we have pricing and availability, we have orders, and we have invoices.
I cannot stress enough the The advantage you're going to get with a faster PO generation is absolutely critical, getting those parts ordered quickly.
Whenever we connect a customer with CAD integrated procurement, it accelerates the velocity, of course, because the order is produced from their system and it's automatically in ours.
Every single day, our technicians use CAD integrated procurement.
With CAD integrated procurement, at the end of my work order, the total cost is allocated to that machine.
The right client to best leverage integrated procurement. It would be customers that have multiple locations, have multiple touch points with the CAT network, and that use a purchase order system that then populates their system.
I think that most companies who are running a modern ERP system would find integrating with CAT integrated procurement a fairly straightforward project to do.
You got nothing to lose. It's super easy. It's a no-brainer.
Caterpillar have got their fingers in so many pies, haven't they? And going back to our mystery machine, we've got lots of close but no cigars. Over on Instagram, Garvin is saying it could be a DMAG 465. It is not. You're in the right ballpark, but it is not. Jim Turner reckons it could be a 241. Gary reckons it could be an H185. It's not one of those. Chris Ward reckons a DMAG H65. You have no idea how close you are, but it's not right. And we've got another vote on our Excavator World Cup for Caterpillar. I think it's 6-1 to Caterpillar at the moment. Looks like Caterpillar could be joining Volvo in the final, as predicted by Mr. Muirhead. There, he actually predicted it. No great surprise. Well, no great surprise in today's outcome, but could I have predicted Volvo and Caterpillar in the final? Possibly. Maybe if the draw had been slightly different, it could have worked out a bit differently, but it wasn't and it didn't. All Terrain Manx just joined us over on Instagram. Good morning to you. Our next film is a little bit longer. It's actually 9 minutes long. I was going to cut it, but I enjoyed it so much I thought, oh, sod it. I'll just show them the whole thing. So I'll be back after this. Yeah, we don't often get to feature Merlo on this show, but when the opportunity arises, we're going to do it. I'm just going to go over to the chat because we had a couple just pop in. Bear with me 1 second. DMAG H55 says Crystal. It's much bigger, but your previous answer was close. Dan Cullen reckons it could be. Well, I'll allow for the predictive text. The predictive text was saying the H111. It is not one of those, and he's also saying an H65. It's not an H65. You're getting close, but in terms of the numbers, you're getting close. In terms of the actual answer, it's way, way bigger than one of those. So Merlo, I was introducing Merlo and saying we don't see them very often. So seizing the opportunity, this is a 9-minute film featuring Merlo and one of their customers. I enjoyed this. I think you will too.
In Dorchester, 120 miles from London in the south of England, to tell you the story of the construction company Mark Whiteley Group. Precision and fast movements are essential for a construction company. How did Merlo meet these requirements? This is what we will discover today on the new episode of Partners for Life. The Mark Whiteley Group was founded in 1987 out of owner and director Mark Whiteley's passion for the construction industry. Since then, he has been committed to providing excellent craftsmanship and has expanded his successful bricklaying business to include civil engineering and earthworks, enabling a more comprehensive service within the construction industry. Let's go and visit Mark to find out more.
Morning, Ellie. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Good. Well, thank you very much for having me today.
No, that's all right.
So, tell me about Mark Whiteley Group.
Well, we were established in 1986, I do believe. We were just bricklaying at that point. Then years later, after the droughts lined up, we went on to forklifts. I think our first hire was in 95.
Great, great.
And then we purchased one in 96, I do believe.
Wow. So, I know that you've been a Merlo customer for a long time. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, well, we hired various forklifts. We tried different brands. And I think when the Merlos were first out, and I think they were early 90s, I think the very first one, and they were still jibbing out, whereas a lot of forklifts were mass forklifts and all the rest of it. And the side shift made a real difference to us purchasing and going on from there.
Great. And how do you use Merlo in your everyday application here?
Normally just construction, lifting materials to a platform to thing. But now the company's progressed into groundwork, civil engineering, and especially now recycling's our big thing. So we just bought a brand new turbo farmer to load the lorries, handle the materials and get it done a lot quicker, which is a lot faster than a construction machine, as you probably are well aware of.
So can you tell me a bit about the philosophies of your company?
Well, we do not have a big turnover of staff. My brother's worked for me since 92. We got a couple of bricklayers that have been on 26, 27 years, a couple of labourers been on 27 years. So the philosophy is to try and keep everyone happy and as a family. So there's a lot of family now involved in the business. It's a happy place, is a good place.
And why should customers choose Mark Whiteley Group?
Well, we do supply a whole range of things. So we can start from the ground, build all the way up, supply all the materials, do all the transport involved with things.
So I know you've been a Merlo customer for around 25 years now. Can you tell me about your relationship with Merlo over the years?
Yeah, it was by coincidence that we were driving around somewhere and we seen a green forklift on a lorry from Sells, I think it was back in them days. We had only been introduced to diggers with forklifts on, forks on, not really what we wanted to use, and then also just straight mass forklifts. So we seen it. I went and looked at it at Sells in Weymouth, decided that we hired one. We hired it for, I think, a period of almost 18 months. And then in 96, we ordered one through Roy Russell, a very nice salesman from Sells back in the days. And then we've brought one, it was shown at SED, and then I think we brought one more or less every year since that day. So I think we've had 21 Merlos over 25 years.
The Mark Whiteley Group currently have two Merlos in operation. Firstly, the Panoramic 40.13 Plus has a lifting capacity of 4 tonnes and a 13 metre lift height. The machine also has two front stabilisers. They are also using the Turbo Farmer 427, which has a 4.2 tonne lifting capacity and a 7 metre reach. So what are some standout features of Merlo for you?
Well, there's many features that stand out in Merlo, but the main one for us is the visibility. No one has ever managed to get the boom as low as they can. As you can tell by the model, when the boom's travelling, it is down almost with the top of the bonnet. So the visibility for the driver is a whole range of field, especially when you're going up towards loading materials out.
So obviously safety is a key feature on a construction site.
Yeah.
Tell me how Merlos uphold safety for you.
Obviously, we're going back to the visibility is a great one, but then nowadays the driver always has to have his hand on the joystick to control it. So if there's any form of conditions or something that happens, as soon as he lets go, the boom stops instantly. The Hydromech transmission will, if you know how to drive it properly, will almost stop itself without having to touch brakes.
So can we go and see the machines?
Yeah, by all means, let's go.
Let's go.
After you.
Thank you. Hi Wayne, nice to meet you.
How you doing, okay?
Yeah, good, thank you. So tell me, how does Merlo's improve your everyday working life?
Well, the Merlo's quite a nice, fast, efficient, safe machine. In this dusty environment, we use the air conditioning a lot, so it's all integral. Just a safe, nice, safe machine.
Great, and what are some applications you use it for every day?
We use the normal buckets to load the lorries. We've got the form one for when we do recycling. forks for pallets, and we've also got a concrete mixer which we use to mix our own concrete.
Great.
Your timing is crucial to us. The customers need us there fast, so with the Merlo we can load fast and efficiently to get our job done quick.
Thank you very much for that, Wayne.
No problem.
Let's head over to Glenn, our construction sales manager, to find out more about these machines.
Thank you, Ellie, for that introduction. What we're going to have a look at this morning is a couple of machines that Mark Whiteley has bought recently, starting with the TF 42.7 which has 116 horsepower Perkins engine, fully compliant to stage 5 regulations. A great machine for moving aggregates around the yard because of its power and also because it's load sensing, flow sharing hydraulics. The 42.7 also has the best visibility of any telehandler on the market today. Both of the machines behind me have the Merlo ASCS system, which is world renowned for its safety and comfort for the operator, making our machines the safest machines on the market to use today. The P4013 Plus behind us comes complete with boom side shift, allowing you to place loads at height. Even if you're placed in the wrong position originally, you can move the boom from side to side, and also chassis leveling, which allows you to change the inclination of the machine on uneven ground. Both machines behind me have boom suspension as standard on them. This is particularly useful when you're travelling on uneven roads or surfaces, doing long distances. It keeps the material in the bucket from falling out. The Merlo boom side shift is simple to operate and makes it very easy for anybody to use.
Challenge accepted. Right, okay, let's get these stabilizers on. Oh! Okay. Stabilizers. That was the left one. We're gonna go for the right one now. Okay, right. I don't really know what I'm doing. And then I'm gonna lower it down. Now I'm gonna use the boom side shift to place this down. Yep, perfect. I did it! That was actually a lot easier than I thought. Challenge completed! Yay! What an amazing day spent here at Mark Whiteley Group learning about how these Merlos can help in everyday life on site. Thank you for watching this episode of Partners for Life, and if you liked it, follow us on our social channels for more.
Cracking film, Merlo. Well done, all of you people. Nice looking machines as well. I know a few people said much the same. Gary Muirhead says, great to see a manufacturer having a customer explaining how good their equipment is, not them telling us how great they are. Well done, Merlo. Dan then says, a pity there's not more Merlos around, but Gary says there's more than you think, Dan. Great bit of kit. Totally agree. I can tell you we have a winner on our mystery machine. Obviously, I think Jim Turner once again set us on the right path for all things related to DMAG. Lots and lots of guesses on the DMAG, lots and lots of guesses on the DMAG, more guesses on the DMAG, more guesses on the DMAG, more guesses on the DMAG. But Dan Cullen finally got the right answer. There you are. That's exactly what it is. It is. I was going to show you. It is a DMAG H685 SP. Yeah, it is. Big old, well, you can see from the guy in the foreground there. Yes, there is a man stood in front of those tracks. That is a big old boy, and it is the DMAG H685 SP. Congratulations, Dan. Another 3 points on the table, which is looking, well, let me see. You're on 9 points and I'm on 6 so far. You've just gone into the lead. And Gary Muirhead saying, well done, Dan. And Dan Cullen saying, thank you, Jim. Yes, thank you for setting us on the right path. I'm going to take that away. We've got one more film before we get into the morning monologue. Got a bit of Hydromech loading, set to music. What's not to love? I'll be back right after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Yeah, I was sent this film yesterday, actually, and it arrived and it was okay. It was fine. So I decided to take it away and put some music to it, and I think it's a whole lot better as a result. So Hydromech doing its thing. Very nice too. I thought the music kind of went with my the mood of my hat today. Jim Turner obviously enjoying it, as says tune Gary Muirhead going for the old cliched headline. Whenever I write about Hydromech, yes, always a Turkish delight. Absolutely right. Yeah, fine machine. Absolutely fine machine. They didn't make it to the final, but I think we're about to find out who has. The second semi-final of our Excavator World Cup competition pitted Caterpillar against Atlas, but which brand came out on top? We put it to the public vote, and I can tell you that the winner is... The winner is Caterpillar. Caterpillar is in the final, while sadly Atlas leaves us empty-handed. They fell at the last. Tomorrow is the grand final of our Excavator World Cup, and it will see today's winner, Caterpillar, taking on the equally mighty Volvo. Which one will be crowned ultimate champion? You'll have to tune in to find out. Now, Jim Turner reckons our last song was a tune. Mick, however, says that bleeding tune is an assault on the nerves to us gentlefolk or old gits to most. I was feeling summer vibes when I chose it. What more can I tell you? But it's gone now. Mick, you can come out from behind the sofa. It's gone away, and it will never darken our doorstep again. It's that time again. It's morning monologue time. So while I'm putting on my serious face, let me play this. If you are unfortunate enough to lose a loved one to old age or a long-term illness, you can expect the support of the medical community. In the most solemn of bedside manner voices, they will explain precisely what ailed and ultimately killed your loved one and the medical procedures they tried to keep them alive. When it's all over, you will receive a death certificate that confirms and verifies all of this in very stark and very final black and white. If you're unfortunate enough to lose a loved one through a road traffic accident or as a result of a crime, the police will deliver the news with equal care and solemnity. They will keep you abreast of developments throughout their investigation, and hopefully they will apprehend and prosecute the person responsible for taking the life of that loved one. You will then have your day in court to see justice served. If, however, you lose a loved one in an industrial accident, there is no bedside manner. There are no explanations. And rather than hushed and solemn tones, there is an agonizing and endless silence. At least that's how it apparently works here in the UK. While other countries make resolution, restitution, and closure for the families a priority, here in the UK, bereaved families are seemingly an afterthought. The first thought of the investigating authorities apparently is to appoint blame and to ensure a successful and lucrative and high-profile prosecution. The second priority is apparently then sharing the success of their investigation online and in the media. Then, and only then, will the feelings, the grief, and the abandonment of the bereaved families be given any consideration. Now, obviously, I'm speaking primarily here about the quadruple deaths at the Didcot power station back in February 2016. But that same sense of abandonment applies equally to the double deaths at Redcar and countless other demolition fatalities over the years. Now, quite why investigations take longer here in the UK than anywhere else, couldn't possibly tell you. No idea. Despite appearances that are often to the contrary, I still believe the British police to be among the best in the world. The Health and Safety Executive, it's underfunded and understaffed, but it's still better than most. Yet both have turned the pursuit of justice into a marathon, through a maze, in the dark, without a map. And I wonder if we are at least partly to blame. Or rather, I wonder if our apathy is partly to blame. In the immediate aftermath of a site fatality, the industry wrings its hands in collective disbelief and horror. And then it goes back to work. Within a day, a week, or a month, the industry's thoughts will have moved on. In all likelihood, by the time a month has elapsed since one fatality, there will be another one with which to concern ourselves. Come the end of the year, when the HSE reveals the terrible truth of the industry's safety record, each fatality will be just a number on the sector's scoreboard. And sadly, this apathy doesn't apply just to accidents and fatalities. We all pause to reflect every time we're told how many of our industry brothers and sisters have taken their own lives. But we sigh and we move on. We beat ourselves up about our inability to fix the skill shortage or about how we failed to attract more women into the industry. And then we just go back to business as usual. Industry apathy is not to blame for site fatalities and accidents. It's not to blame for the ongoing skill shortage, nor for the toxic masculinity that pervades many UK demolition and construction sites and renders them no-go zones for women. Industry apathy is not responsible for any of these things. It doesn't help either. There you are. That's my thought for the day. Wearing my new hat. What have we got over in Dan Cullen? He's saying another construction firm in administration, Haddon Construction apparently. Woodbridge Manufacturing gone too. Going back to Haddon, apparently that's 66 job losses. Haven't seen that, but I can go back to the point that was raised earlier about, was it, let me have a look, because Ken Hatcher thankfully brought me up to speed. When I can find it. No, it's not there. It will be, no, not there. It will be in here. No, it's not. Oh, bear with me. There we are. You probably can't see that particularly well. Dan Cullen mentioned earlier the notion of a Barratt Homes and Lloyds Bank joining forces with the government in a major house building venture. Hadn't seen it, glad to hear it. Whether that will mean they can deliver the 1.5 million new homes pledged by Keir Starmer, I very much doubt it. But hey, listen, it all helps. It all helps. Yeah, industry apathy. I do remember back in the day, not entirely sure what year it would have been, but I remember there was, I won't bore you with the details, but basically the National Federation of Demolition Contractors held an extraordinary general meeting up at the JCB headquarters in Staffordshire. Sorry, I got a whistly nostril. And it was basically to address member apathy. People weren't turning up to meetings and they weren't really participating. It was every man for himself and all that kind of thing. And it did have a major impact on the NFDC. So they got them together, rallied the troops and what have you. The president at the time wasn't the best, and I think he was at least partly to blame for the apathy. But apathy is a bad thing. And I said there that apathy isn't to blame for accidents, and it is not directly responsible. But apathy, that feeling of, whatever, it can cause accidents. If you get to the point where you've just listened to so many toolbox talks and so many safety guidances and what have you, sooner or later you'll become numb to it. And while I hate the idea of people becoming apathetic about their own safety and the safety of those around them, I'm sure there is a degree of that. Absolutely sure there is a degree of that. But what I find remarkable, and there was a couple of days after, it was primarily when I lost my mum. Obviously, grieved after my dad, but when my mum died back in 2022, I remember going out one morning, a day or two afterwards, and being astounded that the world had carried on. The world didn't seem to be aware of the fact that I'd lost my mum and just going about its business, which is ridiculous. I realise that. But it, I, as far as I was concerned, the world should have stopped and paused and taken note. It should have been on the national news because it was that big a deal. Every site fatality will have that same effect. The 4 guys that died at Didcot, the 2 guys at Red Car, the one up at Longannet, and all of these. They will have had an absolutely life-changing impact upon wives, husbands, sons, daughters, nieces, nephews, and so on down the line. An absolutely life-changing impact upon them. And yet the industry within which they work will just go about its business. Even the companies for whom they were working will just go back to work as if nothing had happened. And, the names of the individuals that have died in the course of their duties in demolition and construction will mean so much to their loved ones, and also to we've got Mick in our audience here. He knew the 4 guys that died up at Didcot. He knew them by name. He knew Mick and he knew John and so on. Now they are the Didcot 4, and I'm equally responsible because I coined that term, the Didcot 4. And in the year that they died, back in 2016, come the end of the year, they were just one of 40, 45 people that had died. I don't know how we can move on so quickly. I really don't. Having lost a couple of people fairly recently, I don't know how we all just move on. And going back to the point about, obviously today is 9/11. I'd written that monologue before I realised it was going to be broadcast on 9/11. But you think about the ongoing impact of 9/11. There is a big memorial to it, and I'll tell you something about that in a second. Big memorial to 9/11 at Ground Zero. But it's impacted the global landscape, right down to the fact that, I'm traveling to the States in just over a week and a half's time. I'm going to have to be at the airport 3 hours in advance because of the additional security that is still raging 23 years later. Rightly so. I have no complaints about that whatsoever. I wish the airports had updated themselves to make it a little more comfortable to sit around for 3 hours, but that's a whole other story. But the repercussions of that resonate to this day. I would like to think, as Keir Starmer suggested, that the aftermath of Grenfell will also resonate. There should be, as a result of Grenfell, there should be a construction industry before, a pre-industry or a pre-Grenfell industry and a post-Grenfell industry. I would say exactly the same about the demolition industry with Didcot. There should, when the whole thing, when the dust finally settles, the Thames Valley Police finally pull their head out of their collective arse, when the Health and Safety Executive finally stand up and do what they're supposed to do in the first place, I think we should, if those 4 guys died for anything, we should have a pre-Didcot industry and a post-Didcot industry. And the post-Didcot industry should be markedly different. Markedly different. No more safety lip service. No more tick box mentality. No tick box approach to health and safety. And it should be a marked and significant change. Sorry to say, when the ripples waver from the centre of grief, calmness will take over. Memories, on the other hand, are always with us. That's very poetic, Mick. But it does feel like that. It does feel like that. I mean, my sister is still struggling quite a bit with the loss of both our parents. Partly because she was my sister lived just around the corner from my parents. I'm sort of an hour away from where they lived, so she took on, when my mum was taken ill, she took on the role of surrogate wife and carer and stuff like that. So she was literally day to day involved, while I was one step removed. So she lost both her parents, but she also lost some of her purpose. And here we are, 2 years on, and she's still struggling with that. But you're absolutely right what you say there. Jim Turner says, sack a few knuckle-dragging Neanderthals and the others will fall in line and behave. Punish a few and they'll up standards of the ones that are still there. As soon as standards start to slip, they continue downwards. Often the case. Often the case. And yeah, what is the expression? A rising tide raises all the boats. Wouldn't it be fantastic? I'm clutching at straws here, and I realise I'm largely farting against thunder. But wouldn't it be fantastic if, when the Didcot inquiry does finally reach its conclusion, that the industry, and I'm not just talking about the little silos of the IDE over here and the little NFDC over there, and if the entire industry just went, hang the fuck on, let's all get in a room and let's make sure that that never happens again. Regardless of what tie you're wearing, what badge you've got, what chain of office you've got, fuck all that. It's meaningless. All get in the entire industry, get in a room or on a Zoom call or something, just sit down and work it the fuck out. Because Didcot, obviously, because it was a quadruple fatality, was terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Redcar was a double fatality. Terrible, terrible, terrible. But even an individual fatality is no better. It's no better. Somebody somewhere will have lost a loved one, a husband, a wife, a spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, niece, nephew, whatever it might be. Someone will have been impacted like a kick in the guts from that. And it is time that this industry just set aside these stupid silos that they operate in. Little meetings over here, little meetings over there. We don't speak to them. They don't speak to us. None of them speak to me. Fuck them. Just set all of that aside. And just say, okay, look, when I travel overseas, particularly to the States, because they love the expression, I travel overseas, they refer to this industry as the Demolition Brotherhood. Now, I realise brotherhood in our, in the woke age within which we live should probably be brotherhood and sisterhood. But setting that aside, that we all speak the language of demolition. We are one global brotherhood, and no more of I've never felt that more than in the aftermath of Didcot. I was receiving calls from Australia, from New Zealand, from America, from Brazil, right across Europe. What's the latest? Is there anything we can do? And when we launched the Sight for Sore Eyes book, we were sending them to countries that didn't even speak the language, because they were so keen to help and be part of it. In so many ways, these little, the NDA in the States, fine, the EDA in Europe, fine, NFDC, IDE, and all these. Where is that global union? Where are we all sitting down? I mean, the EDA, I think the EDA does some fantastic work. Really does. But in order to be a member of the EDA, you kind of have to be a member of the NFDC. And if you're not a member of the NFDC, well, you're out on a limb. Where is that sitting down and not sitting down talking about how much discount you're going to give to the next round of training you're doing? Sit around a table, lock the doors, and do not leave until you are convinced that you have together made the industry safer. The very fact, bear in mind all that we have at our disposal, all the technology, all the equipment, all the advanced communications and safety procedures and everything else, everything we've learned over hundreds of years of doing demolition and construction. And yet, a fatality is not an unusual occurrence. It's more unusual now than it was, but what was it last year? Was it 50, 55 people died on demolition and construction? How are we accepting that? How is the industry accepting that? How are the workers accepting that? How are we not at the point where you turn up for work as an operator, an operative, site manager, and just take one look and go, "Oh, sod that. I'm not working there. That's an accident waiting to happen." We hear lots of people saying it was an accident waiting to happen after the accident has happened. Where are they saying that before? Mick says, I think where Didcot Redcar are concerned, where it's such a small circle to us who are concerned, those at the top are so-called top, not interested, too worried, it will name them. Here's an interesting point. Obviously, we are running our petition about Didcot at the moment. I have sent the details to a friend of mine, and they are going to raise it at an IDE meeting at the end of the month. There is an IDE council meeting. And they will be given the option, it doesn't cost them anything. They don't have to believe that I'm not the devil. They don't have to be nice to me. They don't even have to speak to me because it's not my petition. It's the industry's petition. I will lay a fiver now to say that they will not support it. Now, the IDE, there's some very, very good people in there. There's some turkeys in there, but there's some very good people in there. But if they were to support that that petition en masse, they could double the current level of support that we've got overnight. Just there you are. Just an email out to all IDE members. Please take a moment to go and vote for this. I bet they don't. And to be perfectly honest with you, I probably should send it to the NFDC, but what's the point? What is the point? If it's not invented in Hemel Hempstead, they don't care. If it's not putting money into their coffers, they don't care. If it doesn't require them to attend a meeting in a fancy London hotel, they don't care. What's the point? And while that surely is that not an extension of the apathy that I was talking about? Yeah, well, whatevs, as the kids say. Meh, MEH, meh. Okay. Yeah, well, we could fix the industry. We could make it better, but nah. See, my kids, they don't say it so much anymore, but my kids, when they were teenagers, used to use the expression CBA. And they used it around me for quite a bit of time before I actually bothered to ask, what exactly does CBA stand for? It stands for can't be asked. And that pretty much sums up great swathes of the demolition and construction industry. Can't be asked. Sad. Very, very sad. And the annoying thing about it is that you know full well that at some point in the next few days, next few weeks, next month, some other poor soul will not make it home from work, be it on demolition or construction. Somebody somewhere will die as a result of working in demolition or construction. And the industry for about half an hour, oh, this is terrible. Terrible. How could such a thing happen? Right, next job. Where's the next £5 note coming from? Mick says the NFDC and IDE should hang their heads in shame if they do not. Never had time for either. A couple of members, yes, but the whole collective, never. Yeah. And do you know, I have a weird thing now. Whenever I don't like many politicians. In fact, as it stands at the moment, I probably don't like any politicians. But you sometimes you look at a politician and think, at least he or she seems like they have their heart in the right place. I might not agree with everything they say, but they got their heart in the right place. And then they will say something like, yes, I owe all of this. I owe all of this to my faith, for Jesus is my best friend. At which point I go, oh Jesus, yeah, okay. And there are some people within both the organisations that Mick has mentioned there that I feel the same about. There's people I have actual admiration, respect for, and you get an email from, you'll be pleased to know we've joined one of those organisations, and there's a little bit that just goes, oh well, there's another one lost. Mick also says, makes you laugh, the NFTC, NDTG happy enough to take your money, but will let you stew when things go wrong. Yeah. Well, it's not, in absolute truth, it's not even letting you stew. You think, let's not beat about the bush. Let's tell it like it is, regardless of their responsibility, because we don't know, because Thames Valley Police are snail-like. But Didcot happened under the watch of the demolition contractor, which was Coleman and Company, which is an NFDC member. Longannet happened under the watch of Brown and Mason. Brown and Mason is an NFDC member. Redcar happened under the watch of John F. Hunt. John F. Hunt is an NFDC member. All three of those companies still members. But you miss the call for one of your site audits, black mark, or you're off the books. CMA investigation. I'll raise that again. Admittedly, one of the companies is no longer a member anyway, but that was their choice and not the NFTC's. But 9 member companies were implicated in the CMA investigation. Nothing. There's not even like a little blue tick against their name saying, they were sketchy once. No, nothing at all. Chris Ford, the fear of prosecution is greater than the fear of blame. The silence is deafening and another opportunity to avoid a similar incident. That is the biggest. I'm doing this petition at the moment on behalf of the families because I think it's not a matter of I think. This is just me stating the fucking obvious. The priority here should be giving an explanation and a degree of closure to the 4 families. Everything else can wait. That's the target. We sort that out and we can worry about the rest of it afterwards, okay? So we sort that out. But after that, the learning opportunity, every accident, every near miss, every fatality should be a learning opportunity. And our opportunity to learn from Didcot has been wrapped up in red tape for 8.5 years and still is. Our opportunity to learn from Redcar, wrapped up in red tape, 5 years, still is. How do you live with yourself? If somebody went to work on an industrial site tomorrow, an access platform operator like John Mackay was up at Redcar, he goes to work on an industrial site. He's not a demolition man, but he's on a demolition site. He goes and puts his cherry pick up, nice and controlled, very smooth, safely, puts it over a chimney explodes, and he's burnt to death. Where does that leave the police up in the northeast of England? Where does that leave the health and safety executive, who have basically sat on findings that might well have saved that guy's life? Don't they care? Do they not see the wider implications? And I say this every time I mention Didcot. Didcot, we're almost out of, I think we've got 1 or possibly 2 more power stations to come down in the UK. But there's more than 1,000 around the world. Now, I'm not saying the health and safety executive or the Thames Valley Police should be prioritising the demolition industry outside the UK, but the world is watching. And there could be something tucked up inside the investigation into Didcot that you could broadcast to the world. The NFTC telling the NDA telling whoever, but spread that far and wide. We have analysed this from every single angle, and we have found that this bit of construction, this bit of methodology is a high risk. That was at least partly to blame for the collapse that killed 4 people. Whatever you do, whether you're taking down a power station in the UK, in Germany, in Australia, in Outer Mongolia, don't do this because it will kill you. But we can't do that because it's tucked away in a darkened room somewhere, never to be seen by human eyes. Mick says. Said it before, we'll say it again. The old boys club. Nothing will change. And at my age, I don't know why it bothers me so much. I'll tell you why it bothers me. And just setting aside all of the accident machinations and all that kind of thing, when I was tasked, I mean, I was already working with the NFDC at the time, but I was tasked with writing the history of the history of the NFDC for their, I think it was their 75th anniversary. I think 70th or 75th, doesn't matter. But I was given all these big leather-bound volumes because when the NFDC first started back in 1941, they used to minute the meetings in these big leather-bound volumes. And, they're absolutely fascinating. Handwritten, it was a bit like going back and looking at the Dead Sea Scrolls, but purely for demolition. And when you think about what the NFDC, how it started and what it did, obviously, it was formed to help to respond to the Blitz and making buildings safe, but it brought rival companies, and I mean, talking bitter rivals here, brought them together under one roof, and then that spread and brought in those from outside London and further afield, and it started to push things like health and safety and guidance and training and all of the things. You go back to Sid Hunt Senior days, Claude Brown days, even as recently as somebody like a David Keane or something like that. The industry was moving forward, and there, right? Those the way that wars used to be fought. Okay, the wars used to be the king at the front with a flag, and he would lead his men into battle. That was the NFDC during the 60s, the 70s, and even the early 80s, and possibly even a little bit beyond that. We are going to make the industry better and safer and more productive and more environmentally friendly. And there, carrying the standard of the industry, was somebody from the NFDC, a president of the NFDC, leading the charge, leading the battle to betterment for the industry. And now, much the same as the way that wars are fought today, the king is tucked up in his palace somewhere else. In this case, the palace is in Hemel Hempstead, and we'll just keep sending the cannon fodder to die. We're done with the battle. We'll just jump on the next passing bandwagon. Ultra Max says it's absolutely shameful to sit and listen to this today and be nodding in agreement that this is the industry we work in. Well, at least you're nodding in agreement. At least I'm not sat here spouting nonsense and you're thinking, who is this fucking idiot wearing the hat? Thank you for that, Ultra Max. I probably should learn your real name. Seems like a strange thing to call a person. Dan Cullen says it's all about the money. All about money ain't a damn thing funny. You've got to have a con in this land of milk and honey. I don't even know what song that's from, but it came to my head. It's all about the money with these firms, and all you are is a number. It's obvious. 8 years, nothing of these companies should be ashamed of themselves and the guys in offices and CEOs. Yeah, they should. They absolutely should. Dan Cullen says, getting cold now. Yeah, I have to admit, I've got my summary hat on. I've got a T-shirt on purely because I like the slogan on it. But it was a long sleeve job yesterday, and it's a long sleeve job coming up as well. I do think, having said that, I do get a break. Where are we now? It is the 11th, isn't it? So in 11 days' time, I shall be hopping on the big metal bird and flying off to Las Vegas, where apparently it's quite warm. Not as warm as I feared it might be, but it's going to be quite warm. Mark, why don't you and Mick meet up in London somewhere for a coffee and a chat about these things? I've got a better idea. Why don't we meet up in Mick's part of the world and go for pie and mash? I know, Dan, I know you're a vegan or a vegetarian or something, but the NFDC needs to be dismantled and new industry leadership take over. Bizarrely, and despite all that I've said, I'm not even sure that's the answer. Nothing would please me more than for the NFDC to regain its crown. For a new president to say, okay, line in the sand, that's what's happened. And could Didcot be the catalyst for that? I don't think so, but wouldn't it be fantastic, for the second coming? I've said there should be a pre-Didcot industry. There should be a post-Didcot industry. Wouldn't it be marvelous to have a post-Didcot NFDC that reclaimed its crown and actually started to rally the industry and move it in the right direction. Not the right direction for itself, the right direction for the industry. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Listen, I would applaud it. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I would applaud it. And listen, this is when you know things are getting really serious. Jim Turner, even I've got long trousers on today. Good Lord. Good Lord. I thought you were a year-round short and vest man. I had visions of you depths of February, snow on the ground, ice in your beard, still in a pair of shorts. He's got long trousers today, people. It must be bloody parky out there. Should we stop? Should we stop? I'm going to be back tomorrow with something or other. I don't know what. I'm going to try not to talk about Didcot tomorrow because obviously the petition is still going. And Dan Cullen has agreed he would go for pie mash. I'm not supposed to be eating pie mash, but as long as you all agree with me not to tell the wife, I would be more than happy to do that. I am going to give you a very quick update. Let's just see what that's doing. It hasn't really moved very much. Mick says, Jim, the hound was tiptoeing this morning. Yes, brass. Those poor old brass monkeys. I was going to show you some movement on our petition. It hasn't really moved very much in the course of the show. But we are at 524. So if you haven't already signed up, please do so, would you? And Jim Turner says, what does he say? I got soaked to the skin a couple of times over the last few days. I think it's made me niche. You've slipped into the vernacular again. What the fuck is nesh, Jim? What does nesh mean? If anybody out there speaks Jim Turner, is fluent in Jim, please let me know what nesh is. Mick says, go on, mate. I'd meet you for a double pie. Oh, yes. For those of you that don't live within the M25 and are unfamiliar, you go to a pie mash shop. Man's would be my preference, but that's just me. And you order a double. That's 2 pies, 2 mash, lashings of liquor. You don't know you're born. Bugger. I knew Nesh would fox you. Apparently, Nesh means cold. Why Nesh? I can't even think. I can't even think. Not rhyming or whether that's an abbreviation. Nesh. Nesh means you feel the cold easily. My wife qualifies as Nesh. I'm going to go and tell her in a minute. You're Nesh, you are. Okay, guys, back to it. Start breaking next part of the yard. Have a great day. Dan, do you do the same? We won't tell the wife. Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to tell her she's Nesh, but I won't mention the pie and mash that is in the offing. May have to be after Vegas, but by which time my diet will have gone completely to tits anyway, so whatever. People, go and have a fantastic day. I think I don't think we've set the world to rights, but at least we've got a few bits and pieces off our chest. I think my house balls were feeling like that this morning at 4:30. 4:30. Good Lord. Nesh means Southerners need a coat. That's any time of the year that isn't August, to be honest with you, Chris. Need to come up for a visit. Yes, I'm more than happy to come up for a visit. In actual fact, Jim, I'm going to be up in your part of the world with JCB in October. But I need you to provide me with a translator because quite clearly, I don't speak at a lingo. And Dan Cullen says, update us, Jim. Yes, I will keep you posted. And that will do us. Go have your day. I'll see you tomorrow. All the best.